Welcome to this special coverage where we delve into two critical developments in the ongoing Middle East crisis. First, we examine the deployment of the US THAAD missile defense system in Israel, a move that underscores the deepening US involvement in Israeli aggression. Next, we turn to Gaza, analyzing the recent ceasefire and the persistent human rights violations that continue to define the brutal policies of the occupation. Our unwavering commitment to uncovering the realities of this conflict drives today's discussion as we bring you expert insights into these pressing issues. Now, moving to the escalating tensions in Yemen, Israeli media outlets have reported that Israel is preparing to launch extensive military operations against the Houthis in Yemen with the goal of weakening the group and targeting its leadership in response to the attacks. According to Israeli security sources, Israel proposed to the United States and other countries the idea of conducting joint operations against the Houthis, with estimates suggesting the campaign could last several weeks. The U.S. National Security Council's Strategic Communications Coordinator, John Kirby, has stated that the U.S. will continue strikes on Yemen's Houthis as long as their capabilities remain active. Kirby emphasized ongoing coordination with Israel to minimize damage to civilian infrastructure and casualties. He reiterated that the Houthis pose a real threat to Israeli security by continuing to launch attacks on Israeli territory.
Used by the Iran-backed Kataib Hezbollah hit militia group as well as other affiliated groups in Iraq. Initial reports that we're getting indicate that we had effective.
Now, in our first segment, we examine the recent deployment of the US THAAD missile defense system in Israel and its activation to intercept a Houthi ballistic missile. This move further underscores the US unyielding support for Israel military aggression, especially as it continues to provoke tensions across the region. To provide an expert analysis on the implications of this development, we are joined by General Habis al-Sharouf, a respected military and strategic expert from Ramallah. General al-Sharouf, thank you so much for joining us, and let me ask you, what is the strategic significance of the US deploying the THAAD system in Israel, especially in the current context of escalating tensions?
Good evening to you and to all the viewers. I believe that Israel is making the issue of security as a top priority above anything else, and they always say security first. And there are some fears of the missiles by the Houthis to hit Israel, because actually these missiles have hit the heart of Tel Aviv and areas in the north and center of Israel, though. So I believe that establishing it seems like Israel has got the intention of attacking Iran, and they are fearing the reaction of Iran when such war erupts, because Israel is putting a priority, a list of priorities for its threats before the threats become more imminent. So the attacks on Houthis is a message to Iran that we are ready to attack and we have the capability to deter the Houthi missiles before they reach Israel. So this has two tracks. One is a deterrence defense track, and the other is an preemptive attack track. Israelis still fear that more attacks by Houthis would be launched, and the Israeli defenses did not manage to stop the ballistic missiles launched from Yemen to Israel.
Now, how does the deployment of the THAAD system bolster Israel's offensive and defensive capabilities, and what does this mean for regional balance?
So these missiles, the region itself is highly imbalanced, and Israel wishes for a regional war. Netanyahu wants to drag the region into a regional war by intervention in Syria and intervention elsewhere, by the bombardment of the civil facilities in Yemen, by continuing to attack Gaza Strip, the incursions in Quds. And so the Israeli government is still on the same track of militarizing the genocide that it is doing against the Palestinians, and threatening Iran, and making sure that Iran does not own a nuclear weapon. So Israel still puts Iran as the prime target and the prime threat and the prime enemy. So the Netanyahu government decided to hit the Houthis, and also to send a message to Israel, because if Israel allows the Houthis to be stronger, it's a preemptive move by Israel to hit the Houthis, and preparation to another assault by Israel against Iran, and wishing to stop any supply of missiles from Iran to Houthis.
Now, the U.S. active involvement in operating the THAAD system in Israel raises questions, big question marks, about its direct role in Israeli military actions. How do you interpret this step?
Let's be frank, without the infinite support by the US, Israel wouldn't have been able to continue its campaigns and aggression. On the 7th of October, there was a collapse in the Israeli army. There was a collapse of the Israeli entity as such on the 7th of October. So we have seen there the support by the US, and the US president met with the military cabinet of Israel. So the one that supported Israel and managed to get Israel to continue in this war was US. The US supported Israel by $7.6 billion of military aid and military equipment so far. So therefore the US is a great supporter to Israel in all forms and in all ways in its campaigns against the after the 7th of October. So if it wasn't the US, and if the US was not backing Israel, Israel wouldn't have been able to change the face of the Middle East the way it is now. So Israel is a functional state that is doing what serves the interests of the US. So the US, whether Republicans or Democrats, are providing this infinite support to Israel. So the US has got a great role in supporting Israel in its in its war on the diplomatic level and on the military level. So when there was resolutions in the Security Council, the ones who crippled such resolutions was the US. So the support of the US to Israel is quite known to everybody. We hope that the US changes its policies and to go for peace in the region. And Trump has promised that he will be ending the war when he comes to office, but we hope that the region would be saved from further escalation, or else there will be negative consequences on everybody, not only Iran and Israel, but also the Gulf and all the forces in the region, because the missiles that will be hitting Iran will be going through the airspaces of regional and Arab countries, and this will intensify more the relations between US, Israel, Iran, and the region. We hope that there wouldn't be a regional war, because we have seen the excessive devastation and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, which is displacing the people and killing the people. So the US now should be more more firm in stopping the war machine of Israel, instead of deploying systems to support Israel and to secure Israel, because this will harm the Arab-American relations in the future. Maybe at the current situation, things go okay for the US and Israel, but history is going to remember this, and this will be a mark in the mentality of everybody in the region.
Right. The Houthis have framed their attacks as acts of solidarity with Palestinians. How does this narrative challenge Israel's actions and its broader military objectives?
I don't believe that, with due respect to the statements raised right and left, but I don't think that such missiles from the Houthis will change the situation in the region. But Netanyahu is an enemy, but yet an intelligent enemy, and a very skilled enemy. So Netanyahu managed to turn this to his favor and managed to turn his weaknesses into points of strength and to manage the crisis. So he managed to convince the Israeli parties and the Israeli community that there is a present danger from Iran and from the Houthis, and whenever a missile is attacked, is hit on Israel, Netanyahu escapes his internal problems and his own trial inside Israel towards saying there is an existential war against Israel, and you Israelis see how this is threatening us. You see these missiles that is hitting Tel Aviv, so we should all unite, we should forget our differences, and we should confront our joint enemy, which is the Houthis and Iran. And these are the statements and these are the concepts raised and floated by Netanyahu, and thus he lines up a lot of Israelis behind him. That's why Netanyahu is now more popular in the polls, not because he's a popular person, but he is portraying himself as the only one who can face all the challenges and dangers that face the state of Israel from the different parties that are associated with Iran, the way he says it.
Right, that was General Habis Al-Sharouf. Your insights have seriously shed much needed light on the realities of the US-Israeli military collaboration and the message it sent to the Arab world and its impact on the region. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your valuable perspective on these critical issues. Now, the Israeli military has launched a ground operation in Beit Hanun, northern Gaza, accompanied by artillery and airstrikes targeting alleged Hamas fighters and infrastructure. Military spokesperson Daniel Hagari stated that the Nahal Brigade carried out the overnight operation guided by intelligence. The military claims the offensive aims to enhance security for areas near Gaza. Airstrikes reportedly struck alleged Hamas positions, with the army asserting that civilians were permitted to evacuate during the operation. The Israeli army has detained the director of Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, burnt sections of its facilities, and destroyed all generators, further deepening the healthcare crisis in the region. The Palestinian Ministry of Health has issued an urgent appeal for international intervention to sustain medical services amid the escalating situation. Israeli forces, meanwhile, continue their relentless attacks for the 449th consecutive day, resulting in severe humanitarian conditions and the displacement of 95% of Gaza's residents. In our second segment, we turn to Gaza, where a ceasefire offers a momentary reprieve but cannot erase the scale of the devastation caused by Israel's relentless aggression. Reports of human rights violations, displacement, and mass casualties have shocked the whole world, yet accountability remains elusive. To discuss these pressing issues, we're joined by Mr. Ahmed Muharram, a political writer and researcher from Washington. Mr. Muharram, thank you for joining us on Q News. And the ceasefire has brought temporary relief to Gaza, but the humanitarian crisis persists. How do you assess the impact so far?
Well, after regards, I think Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to escalate the situation from day to day, and maybe he succeed. He feel he has all the power. According to him, he succeed to get rid of all the leaders, first and second group of the leaders of Hamas, as well as Hezbollah in Lebanon. What he's trying to do in West Bank, as well as his long arm to in Yemen with the Houthi, that will escalate the situation. Hope the ceasefire can do something different, but I think he's trying to gain more time. He is interesting to wait for the upcoming 2 or 3 weeks when his friend President Trump will be in the office by the 20th of January. Escalating the situation, according to him, there is a fear in the area that what he's trying to do in Yemen with Al-Houthi is trying to bold the situation to get Iran involved. I think international efforts, United Nations, government in the region are trying so much, giving an effort to stop Benjamin Netanyahu of what he is trying to do as a dream. But I think with the absence of the proper government right now, Biden is in his last few days, so I think he's trying to use all this kind of absence of the American effort or American influence to Benjamin Netanyahu to do what he would like to do, unfortunately.
Right. Mr. Muharram, human rights organizations have labeled Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide. What can the international community do to hold Israel accountable for these crimes?
Well, it is not the first time there is so many, reports and actions against what Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel leaders are doing in the region. But even the General Secretary of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, so many times he blamed and he command all what's happening. I don't think that Israel is listening, and it seems like, unfortunately, there is no other power. Either the United Nations and all the allies, other UN groups can do something with this situation unless America is really need kind of a change. The all keys of the matter is within the American leaders more than chance. I hope that with the new cabinet will come with the President Trump has to look to the matter from different point. Even the security of the Middle East is something very important to America. So I hope that some kind of good pressure can come from the American leaders.
Now, nearly 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced. What immediate measures are needed to address the catastrophic situation?
Well, still, I think what Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to do is to move those people and to push them to go to some other areas, either by force or by their own choice. Not only gather people, but even in the West Bank. I think what he's trying to do, all his trial was failed, but unfortunately, what is suffering are the Palestinian people. Hope in the near future something can happen with his mentality, and his cabinet also in Israel, someone has to advise him that what he is dream cannot achieve at all because it is not physical, can be done.
Now, Amnesty International has called on arms supplying nations to reconsider their support for Israel. How realistic is this demand in the current geopolitical climate, and with the supporters we're seeing, particularly big, what they call big powers?
Well, there is a big hope that something can happen, but unfortunately, the strengths of Benjamin Netanyahu rely on, there is so many European countries and also United States are still supporting him politically in the United Nations, are giving him the free of the veto in the Security Council in New York. Plus, there's still other countries are saying loudly that they stop sending weapons to Israel. On the fact, that's not really at all times, unfortunately.
Now, how do you evaluate the role of the international world bodies, particularly the UN, in addressing the ongoing violations in Gaza?
I think that's a very good question. For the first time, we can see the top of the United Nations, the General Assembly, the Security Council, Antonio Guterres, the General Secretary, so many times did something very strong against Israel, and that led to that for the first time to see that the Israeli leaders, the representative of Israel at the United Nations, are giving hard time and talking badly about the big shot, the president of the UN, and he asked the chief of the UN, Guterres, either to resign or to give another kind of excuse to Israel. That's actually is not what the United Nations used to receive or to address. So I don't think that there is no more effort can be done. Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet are not listening, and they feel that power, they have power, they can do everything. So the maximum of the United Nations was done. Is still very serious to do what he can do. But the other side, the veto of the United States is giving, unfortunately, a hard time to the situation and give a free hand or green line to Benjamin Netanyahu to do what he would like to do.
Mr. Maharem, what must change within the international system to ensure that such violations do not go unpunished and that justice is served for the people of Gaza? No, to the people of the whole world.
I guess the president of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, the General Secretary, he called so many times for a change in the strategy of the United Nations. He said 193 countries, 5 countries has the right of the veto, and the other countries, 10 countries, every 2 years they change. He said since 1945, when the United Nations started, the population of the world globally was almost 2 billion. Right now, there are 8 billions. So he's asking for a change, kind of a change. Why not? Not only 5 countries can have the right of the veto, but maybe 8 or 10 countries to represent more countries in Africa, Asia, and in Latin America. I think what he is dreaming to do, maybe something can happen to make the world better situation.
Right, Mr. Ahmed Maharem, thank you so much for your thoughtful and passionate analysis and your insights into the humanitarian and political dimensions of this crisis are very valuable. Now, that concludes our special coverage where we examined the U.S. deepening involvement in Israeli aggression and the devastating consequences of Israel's actions in Gaza. As we stand firmly against the occupation and its enablers, we will continue to bring you the voices and stories that matter the most. Many thanks for watching, and we invite you to stay informed and engaged as this critical story unfolds.